Chapter 727, Lucky One. Thud. The black revolver with the slightly long barrel recoiled backward as a pale golden beam shot out, heading straight for the spot where the target was about to arrive at. However, the illusory black threads suddenly stopped, as though they were observing something. From his condition, it didn't appear like he had sensed the arrival of danger, but he had his attention attracted by something else. A grayish-white rabbit leaped out the thick grass and fled far away as the tree standing in front of the blob of illusory black threads collapsed due to the gunshot. At the height of a human, a gigantic and irregular hole and a raging pure fire appeared at the tree's trunk, directly splitting it from the middle. Death Knell's might was equivalent to a small-caliber cannon, and its penetrating powers were even more potent. The blob of dense, illusory black threads was clearly given a fright as it instinctively disappeared from where it was, appearing on the surface of a nearby puddle of water. Inevitably, his figure was outlined. He had a pale face with deep recessed eye sockets and light brown eyes. He looked to be in his 40s, had a double mustache above his lips, and wore an old triangular hat. Klein was no stranger to the man, as his bounty notice often appeared before his eyes. Step by step, they were stacked into a clear image, Admiral of Blood Center. Just in loan alone, his bounty was worth 42,000 pounds. He had long infiltrated Bayam. Was it to take away Tyranny von Helmesuen? After this scientist passed away due to being discovered, he joined the Rose School of Thought's mission to target me. I seem to have an additional weakness, but before it's triggered, I've no way of knowing what it is. As his thoughts raced, Klein saw Senner's figure disappear once again. However, the traces of Admiral of Blood's existence was rather obvious. The blob of illusory black threads of his was like a firefly in the darkness. It wasn't difficult to identify him at all. The blob of illusory black threads circled around him with the aid of the morning dew, glass fragments, and water puddles that had frozen for some reason. Jumping again and again from one medium to the other, the gap between the two soon narrowed. Klein didn't wait on the spot. Instead, he quickly moved but only slightly shifted his position so as to prevent the Rose School of Thought demigod, who was engaged in an intense battle, from attacking him in passing. Senner's performance made him understand one thing. A wraith's ability to possess someone to directly control their body requires them to enter a certain range. Previously, although the Rose School of Thought demigod was able to accomplish it at further distances, he hadn't done so, perhaps out of contempt or for fear of any accidents. It could be confirmed that Senner was a Sequence 5 Wraith. Klein kept changing his location, and he awaited the opportunity when the distance between them was more suitable. Just as Admiral of Blood's speed slowed down slightly, and he was about to possess his target from a distance, Klein's left glove suddenly turned deep black, as though it was formed layer by pure particles. Following that, he said a word filled with foulness, a word that came from the devil language. Slow. Senner had sensed it and changed his position before Klein could even open his mouth, but everything within an 8-meter radius came to a halt. His evasive maneuver had failed to show any effects. It was an area of effect attack. Senner's figure suddenly became slow. He once again outlined his figure in the real world as Klein raised his iron-black revolver, cocked it, and placed his target in his sights. With Death Knell, he saw that Senner's body was covered with all kinds of colors that indicated his weakness wasn't at his head, but slightly above his throat. Without any hesitation or delay, Klein pulled the trigger. Lethal attack. At that moment, a blob of illusory black threads walked to Senner's side and pulled at him. Admiral of Blood immediately moved diagonally as the golden bullet grazed past his neck, striking a boulder and shattering it. A golden flame burst from Senner's neck as it jerked his head up and opened his mouth. A sharp shriek blasted out and entered Klein's ears, causing his mind to hum as his body came to a temporary halt. Formless souls had flown to Senner's side at some point in time before mixing with cold winds. From the sky and from the ground, they surged towards the enemy. In each of Klein's eyes, a pale-looking man with a red coat and triangular hat quickly appeared and took form. Puh! Klein snapped his fingers as his body was instantly enveloped by scarlet flames. He disappeared from his location before the wraith was able to possess him. And under a tree that was less than 10 meters away, weeds burst into flames as the flames grew bigger and they soared into the sky. Klein nimbly leaped out from it and raised death knell again. He aimed towards the spot where he was originally standing still at, and he injected more than twice the normal amount of spirituality into the gun. Slaughter. Thud. He pulled the trigger as a golden bullet split into countless shrapnel, and with a sacred flame, swept to the region the gun's mouth had aimed at. The formless specters and souls seemed to be swept away by a solar hurricane as they failed to resist and were ignited amidst screaming. Senner knew that a counterattack was in place once his possession attempt didn't succeed. He immediately flashed into a nearby glass fragment in an attempt to evade the incoming shot, but the bullet hurricane brought about by Slaughter was a rather huge range that included that glass fragment. Amidst a huge boom, golden flames struck the sides of the glass without hitting it. With only burn injuries, Senner leaped to another mirror surface and appeared on the surface of a rolling drop of dew a distance away. His body had a rotting wound thanks to the purification powers, but it wasn't anything serious. There's no way he's that lucky, right? Indeed, Senner has a mystical item that makes himself lucky. There are only 3 purifying bullets left. Klein frowned as he agilely ran over, as though he was in pursuit. As he knew that he was facing members of the Rose School of Thought, he had changed all the Beyonder bullets in his revolver to purifying bullets that targeted wraiths and zombies. There were a total of 6 bullets, and now he had already shot thrice. In the first shot, Senner was saved by a rabbit that suddenly leaped out. In the second shot, he was yanked away by the Rose School of Thought's demigod who happened to come beside him. In the third shot, he happened to be in the gap of the fragment amidst the Slaughter hurricane, preventing him from suffering too much damage. Klein found this level of luck completely unacceptable. However, Klein didn't wallow in depression. Instead, he turned back into Jayamon Sparrow's appearance and build. This was for him to immediately throw a bunch of Sea God domain charms to create a certain commotion once things went south, so as to attract the attention of Sea King John Cotman, who was in Bayam City. If this sequence 3 demigod were to arrive, he would be facing a Rose School of Thought demigod, a hostile pirate admiral, and an adventurer with a mysterious background who had certain ties with the military. It was quite obvious who he would deal with first. As for Miss Messenger, Klein believed that she could escape into the spirit world in a timely fashion and was free to choose whether to participate in the battle royale or leave. The reason why Klein didn't escape in the middle of the night after receiving the telegram last night was because Sea King gave him a sense of security. If he were to leave alone, he would definitely be noticed and captured by the Church of Storms. He would be interrogated, making the subsequent developments unpredictable. If he were to stay in his room and await the person who saw him to attack, he had a chance of struggling until he reached the streets, allowing Sea King to notice it. Faced with an evil operative who was at least a demigod and a Sequence 5 adventurer who was rumored to have ties with the military, there was no doubt that John Cotman would first deal with the Rose School of Thought member. And as a cardinal of the Church of Storms and a high-ranking deacon of the mandated Punishers, he could use various sealed artifacts of the diocese. He could last a moment, even if he faced an angel. At the same time, with the reinforcements from the military, there was a chance for Klein to escape to the sea during the chaos and leave via whale. To his regret, the night remained peaceful after he received the telegram. And once daybreak happened, Sea King would find it difficult to monitor the entire city. Puh! Klein snapped his fingers again, igniting the surrounding trees. This appeared like blooming fireworks around him as they exuded an inexplicable sense of beauty. The reason why he had chosen to pass through the forest ahead for the cliff was because this was a place that was suitable for a magician's performance. His figure flashed through the flames as he circled around Senner, avoiding his approach and control. And from the previous experiences and lessons, Senner knew that his target had an area of effect attack and a damaging blow. He didn't dare stay too close to him, and he would pull away and create a gap once he missed an attack. Otherwise, he would use a wraith's shriek to affect his target or use his pale green fingers to aim at his target. Unfortunately, the latter could only extinguish flames and wither vegetation. There was no way to pinpoint Klein's location. Seeing how the fireworks-like flames were the biggest barrier to his attacks, Senner stopped and let out the deafening shriek, which would also damage a spirit body. Amidst the shriek, the icy blue halo beneath his feet rapidly expanded, covering the mud, randomly strewn weeds, and scattered rocks with a layer of ice. The flames sizzled as they produced tiny amounts of mist before being extinguished by the frost. Klein was influenced by the wraith's shriek, causing his flaming jump to be one step too slow. He ended up failing. His figure projected itself midway as his feet stumbled. Then he saw illusory skulls swirling with black gas rush at him, bringing with them the strong smell of death, as though an envoy from the underworld had arrived. At that instant, Klein didn't seem like he could dodge. However, a light blue fireball emanating the smell of sulfur suddenly condensed before him. His glove remained black, as it remained in its devil state. With a thumping sound, the fireball was extinguished as the illusory skulls shattered and scattered to the ground, creating spots that didn't have any life to them. Right on the heels of that, Klein steadied his body and took out the iron cigar case from his pocket. He threw it at Admiral of Blood Senner as his glove turned noble and sinister at some point in time. Baron of Corruption, bribe.